I hope everyone had a great day. Our theme today is I want to know what love is. Love that teaches us who we are. Love that teaches us who we are. And that's chapter 9 of Rising Tall. It's a chapter about love, boundaries, faith, naivety, and the lessons that shape generations. It's about love, boundaries, faith, naivety, and lessons that shapes generations. As a reminder, our purpose here is to heal so that we can rise to raise champs. Heal in every aspect of life, career, finance, love, spiritual, every aspect of life. Our grounding scripture is in Exodus chapter 3, verse 22b, where God told the children of Israel to get the jewelry from the Egyptians, but he didn't tell them to put it on themselves. He told them to wear it on their children. They were already tainted with slavery, but their children were never tainted with slavery. So the reward of the slavery, the reward of trauma, the benefit of any suffering, the best of it is to be able to get the reward and put it on our children and the next generation and so on and so forth. We all have heard about generational wealth. People talk about real estate because of that. It's the same principle. It's not, using all the fingers to eat all the food, but actually investing in things that, you mortgage, you have to pay and it's painful, but then you can leave it to your children and to your children's children and to your children's children. It's the same spiritual principle. And if we remember when God caused the serpents, he didn't say that Eve will bruise the head of the serpents. No, it was the seed of the woman. It was the next generation that will bruise the head of the serpents. So for whatever we might have gone through in life, wherever we might be right now, whatever we might have gone through today, even at our workplaces, any disrespect or, any challenges, let's just remember that we get to win that challenge, not because of ourselves, not so that we can, put our shoulders up and say, yeah, I did it, but so that we can take the benefit of that win and put it on our children. Remember the gold that the children of Israel took for their 430 years of labor, the reward of it, all the salary for 430 years, they put it on their children. And those children never knew slavery. They could have put it on themselves and it will just be gold on slavery. Like they say, lipstick on pig, but they put it on their children. Again, it is the seed of the woman that bruises the head of the serpent. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining.
Yes,
can you see my screen? Okay, cool.
Yes, Auntie.
Thank you for your patience. Luckily, 1 Corinthians 13 says love is patient and kind. So maybe that's one of the things our sage couple want to talk to us about today, and we're getting to practice it. So yes, tonight we're going to talk about chapter 9, which is I want to know what love is. And the theme is love that teaches us who we are. It's a chapter about love, boundaries, faith, naivety, that's the art of being naive, and the lessons that shape generations. Chapter 9 is not about romanticized love. It is about formative love. Love that reveals truth. Love that tests values. Love that exposes vulnerability and ultimately shapes how we protect, how we parent, and how we partner in our relationships in the future. Today we have with us Dr. and Pastor Mrs. Ajayi, who have been married almost 3 decades. Mrs. Ajayi is popularly known as Ruth. She's really Ruth that dies with husband. And she has, in fact, she is really a testament to generational love, because I know Mrs. Ajayi's parents were just a great reflection, and maybe I'm already stealing their thunder. I still have their picture on my refrigerator. They passed away within 3 weeks of each other. They ate at the same table from the same plates for 50 something years until they passed away. So they're really, truly a reflection of love. So that actually speaks to the generational nature of love as well. So as we think about, like, as we ground ourselves this evening, I want us to think, like, reflect on the love we model, how it becomes an emotional footprint that our children inherit. Again, reminder, we're not just healing to heal for ourselves. We're healing so that our children inherit freedom and not fragments. They don't want to inherit fragments. We want them to inherit freedom, because that's what makes champions. So I want us to reflect on that for a minute. I'll just give us 60 seconds. If you came with your journal today, please feel free to journal, privately. If you want to speak up, feel free to unmute. No pressure whatsoever. But definitely journal so that, beyond the 60 minutes we spent together, you can go back and revisit that and revisit it again, just for your own self. So let's reflect on the love we model, how it becomes an emotional blueprint that our children inherit. How it becomes an emotional blueprint that our children inherit. I will share one thing that just came to mind. My daughter and I, that's my 12-year-old, prays. I can't remember what it was, what prompted the conversation, but I told her, look at 1 Corinthians 13 and tell me 2 things that you do that models it, and 2 of those things in 1 Corinthians 13, the chapter about love, that you don't do. And the same thing, tell me 2 things that I do that models 1 Corinthians 13, and 2 things in 1 Corinthians 13 that I don't do and I should be doing. And one thing that she pulled up, which it didn't even occur to me at all, talking about emotional blueprints. One of the things she said I didn't do, it's funny, she said love doesn't give up. She said I don't give up. But she also said love doesn't look back. And when the way she wrote it, I'm trying to remember exactly how she wrote it. I'm like, is that even in 1 Corinthians 13? It was something around, she uses the Message translation. She calls KJV the old people's Gen X translation. So Message is Gen Z. So in the Message translation, it said something about love not looking back. And it felt contrary. You said I don't give up, but you said I always look back. What do you mean? And then she explained it to me. She said, I have compared her, and it happened the week before. I wasn't feeling well at all. And I said, look, your cousins, when my sister wasn't feeling well, they had to pull up their like big boy pants and, just like roll with it and blah, blah, blah. For her, that was looking back. And it's true. It's true. So things that we sometimes do that leave an emotional, blueprint on our children, positively and negatively. She also gave the examples of why she said love doesn't give up. She gave examples of how I never give up on her, how I'm always training her and praying for her, and so on and so forth. But those things are leaving a footprint. They're leaving a footprint, a blueprint, not even footprint, blueprints, which is the architecture of their lives. So I just want us to reflect on that for a minute. The love that we've modeled, and you can just think of today, any love you've modeled in your workplace, in the morning, getting ready for school. How that has become for your children. And again, remember, we do not heal for ourselves. We don't heal just for ourselves. In fact, I almost want to say we don't heal for ourselves. We heal primarily so that our children can inherit freedom and not fragments. And when God brings up things like that, or when those things come to our mind, let's not shy away from it. Imperfection is who we all are. I learned something when a very, very dear pastor's wife in Chicago passed away, and somebody that was raised by her. She didn't have her parents here. Was more or less raised by this woman. She told me something, and it stayed with me. She said, she calls me Sister Falls. Sister Falls, perfect people go to heaven. We're on earth for perfection. Perfect people go to heaven. So being imperfect, even in your parenting, is your right to life. And it makes sense. Every living organism grows. To be able to grow, there has to be an imperfection you're leaving behind to grow. So our right to life is some imperfections, but we don't stay in the imperfection. We're metamorphosizing. So if some reflections come up that feel, I wish I didn't do that, remember, it's not for shame, it's for surrender and to learn more and to keep improving. So I've spoken a lot. I'm not sure I've even given us enough time to reflect. So I'll just give us 60 seconds to reflect. And if you want to speak up as well, feel free to do so. I'll just give us a few minutes to reflect. For those that are just joining, our reflection is reflect on the love I model, how it becomes an emotional blueprint that my children inherit. The love I model, how it becomes an emotional blueprint that my children inherit. So I'll just give us a few seconds. And if anyone wants to put it on the chat window, feel free. Or if you want to speak up, feel free as well. And if you want to put it in your journal, feel free. Remember, at the end, we'll be taking actions. One thing that we'll do different with our children and with the children in our sphere of influence over the next couple of weeks, we'll be writing an action. So maybe this is your action that you'll write. Why does this blueprint matter? Why does it matter? In chapter 9, we explore first love. We explore spiritual idealism. If you don't have a copy of the book and you'd like that chapter, let me know. You can, of course, read it retroactively, so I'll send you the PDF. We explore the cost of being naive. We explore boundary confusion. We explore faith, desire, and self-betrayal. And something I want to emphasize here, even especially for those of us that have teenage children, young adults, or children entering teenage years. Trauma is not always loud. Sometimes it enters quietly through love we didn't yet know how to protect ourselves from, especially in this generation and in this culture. Trauma is not always loud. It might be in high school, it might be in elementary school. True. In fact, I have a living example. Tonight is not the night to share it. Even elementary school, middle school kids, trauma sometimes enters quietly through love that they did not know yet how to protect themselves from. It might be someone telling them, you know what, I really, really love you. Or you know what, Mike really, really loves you. He's always looking at you. That starts to create confusion if they don't have that right blueprint from us as the parents that have handed them freedom as an inheritance, not fragments. I'm going to read some excerpts. If you have your book, you can follow along with me. If you don't, again, I'll send PDFs later, but you can still follow along as well. So I'm going to be reading from Rising Soul. We're on chapter 9. I was going to say verse 121, but it's actually page 121. So we'll start in page 121.
It's chapter 10.
Chapter 9. Oh, is it chapter 10?
10. Chapter 10.
Oh. No, it's chapter 9.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's chapter 9, page 121. Yeah, let me give folks a few minutes if you have your book, if you want to pull it out. It's about middle of the chapter. It says, I should have guessed. Actually, I'll start from the paragraph above. And I'm not even sure how to pronounce this word. Naively or naively. Naively, I had followed him to the guest room. We had started off talking, him on one of the chairs attached to the reading desk, me seated on the edge of the bed. And in the intensity of our talk, I hadn't consciously noted that he had gotten off the chair and was sitting beside me. I should have guessed that something was off at that point, but I didn't. Today, I realized that being book smart is not the same as being life smart. In retrospect, I realized I was all kinds of book smart, but very lacking in life experiences. And I want to pause here. I know that many of us, when we think of championship, we usually think of academic excellence. That's only one aspect. That's only one aspect of a 360-degree well-being of our children. It's important to be book smart. Yes, that's, you want to get to a good college. You want to, compete in the workplace. A lot of us want our children to be doctors and lawyers. Nothing wrong in it. However, not at the expense of life smartness, which, by us modeling daily decisions, by us modeling daily pitfalls, by us modeling our own weaknesses and our own triumphs, they can see those life smarts. By us modeling even our trauma healing, not hiding from it. And I know that's tough, especially for those of us that are from Africa. In our culture, we want to project that everything is okay. But that's actually not right. It's interesting. A coworker and I were talking on Thursday of last week, and we're just talking about a conflict at work. We were waiting on the call for somebody to join who was like off the rail, who wasn't doing the right thing. And before that person joined, she and I were talking, and she said, yeah, she's the peacemaker, but she wonders at the expense of what, and so on and so forth. And she said, she and her husband have never conflicted, never ever argued. And it bothers her because they have an only child who is 3 years old, and she doesn't know how our daughter is ever going to know how to handle conflicts. And I thought, wow, interesting. Somebody outside hearing that they've never argued, if you've argued in your marriage, I think most marriages do, you'll be like, wow, I wish we never argued. But for her, she's thinking to the next generation, like, okay, I'm not really sure, how my daughter is going to know how to handle conflict and resolve conflicts, because she's never seen her parents argue. They've just been very agreeable. So I thought that was interesting. But so I'll continue reading the chapter about life experiences, which is the emphasis here. In retrospect, I realized I was all kinds of book smart, but very lacking in life experiences. When his hot palm raised my shirt and attempted to creep under my belly, I flipped. It felt like a hot iron had just been applied to my naked skin, like I was going to be burned. Was this for real? Did Akin, my God-fearing fiancé, just try to slip his hand into my bra? I froze. I was petrified, but I was more angry than I was scared. What had gotten into him? And then I'll go to page 122 now. And towards the bottom of page 122. This was my body, not his. I alone decided what could be done to me and what couldn't. And I think that's important to teach our children. I know that we hear it on TV and so on and so forth, but we need to normalize it. They alone, not even us as parents. Yes, we want our children to be chaste. We want them to have purity and so on and so forth. But the reality is, even we don't have control over their body. They alone decide what can be done to them. We can help them to understand the pros and cons of decisions by modeling it as well to them, but we don't get to force them. We don't own their body. We don't get to tell them what to do with their body. I think that's really, really important, and to empower our children in a way that they know we have their back. They need to know that we have their back, whatever happens with them. Because oftentimes some of these children, they go, this is the fiance that becomes their bosom friend or whatever, or even the boyfriend that they think, oh, they can just rely on 100%. And if we haven't created that for them at home, then they'll go to this person who might be deceiving them. So, and this goes on to say, well, this situation goes on in page 123. It's not a big deal for Kemi. Those young girls in Uyo, those young sisters, he had lived in Uyo for a full year during his NYSC year, so I knew what he was talking about. Those sisters didn't see anything wrong with it. They allowed me to fondle them all the time. We didn't sin because I never had sex with them. I barely saw their nakedness. It's not a big deal. It happens all the times. We were just too disconnected from reality when we were on campus. Those are the kind of messages that some people are going to say about love. If you love, it's not a big deal. You're not having sex. You're not going the 9 years, blah, blah, blah. Again, only the child gets to decide what they do with their body. We can coach them what's right and wrong, and hopefully we're coaching them in the right way. But we should give them that power so they know they're fully empowered. You don't get to see my nakedness. You don't get to see my nakedness. You don't get to fondle me. You don't get to fondle me. It's not love. It's confusion. It's not love in any way. And if they don't learn that from us, they will think it's love. And this goes on to say, my now older self would have stood up right there and then and walked him out of the house. At the time, I was 24 and very naive, despite being well-traveled. I was guilelessly trusting of this man that I thought I loved and who loved me. I didn't do what I should have, and how truly naive I was. I mean, this was a man I was going to marry, and he had the chutzpah to tell me of his sexual escapades with other girls. I should have up and left and packed up the relationship. If not that, at a minimum, I should have demanded the respect I deserved, but I didn't. So I want to emphasize that as well. Our children get to demand the respect they deserve from every relationship, including from parents, from us. We get to empower them to have that courage, to have that boldness. Because if we don't, somebody will try to take it from them. They have to have that grounding. That's the gold we're putting on them. They have to have that grounding from us so that they get to decide. Even in a doctor's office, the doctor gets to ask them if they can touch them before they touch them. We should empower them. We don't get to tell our children, go and hug Uncle Kinikon, go and hug Auntie Kinikon. I've been guilty of that. I've been very guilty of it. And I personally don't believe it's the right thing because it causes confusing love for our children. So to round that up, it says, I will not allow him to fondle me and he will not see my nakedness. I set those boundaries and maintained them religiously, but when I should have walked, when I should have demanded the honor due me, I did not. I want our children to be able to demand the honor due them, whatever the circumstances might be. Boundaries. If anyone has worked with me, you'll know that I'm big about boundaries. Boundaries may be countercultural, and it's okay. Boundaries are oftentimes countercultural. It's okay. It might feel like swimming upstream, but we get to empower our children to do the right thing under God, and they hone their body under God. We don't. Nobody else does for them. Journaling and reflection before I hand it over, which is the part I'm excited about, before I hand it over to our guest speakers. I'll actually take a quick pause. Any questions, thoughts, comments? Don't be shy. And I'm not able to see the chat window, so maybe there are some things in the chat window. Feel free to unmute. Okay, if not, let's take a few minutes to reflect and journal. And and feel free to choose any of this, prompts. It's your journey. It's you and your children. You know your children best. You know your spiritual children best. You know your biological children best. You know your grandchildren best. You know your community children best. So it's your personal reflection. Where did I learn to override my own instincts in the name of love? Where did I learn to override my instincts in the name of love? What boundaries do I now wish I had modeled earlier for myself or for my children? What boundaries do I now wish I had modeled earlier for myself or for my children? And just a side note on that, it's never too late. It's never too late to model boundaries. What does honor look like in love? Practically, not idealistically. What does honor look like in love? Practically, not idealistically. I'm going to stop the share for a minute. Actually, I think I can go to the chat. Let's see. So that I can, I'm going to stop the share so I can put that in the chat window. Again, it's yours. It's your time. It's your reflection. It's not something you're going to share with us. If you want to, you're welcome to. But it's really your silent reflection and journaling for yourself, and you can use any of these prompts or all of them. Where did I learn to override my own instincts in the name of love? And honestly, that could be parental love too. That could be sibling love. That can be love is a 4-letter word. It's not lost, and it's not a bad 4-letter word. It's actually a positive, very positive 4-letter word. So in all our relation, it might be in friendships. Love is actually a good thing even in friendships. So where have I learned to override myself? And what boundaries do I now wish I had modeled earlier? It's never too late. I can still model it. What are some boundaries I want to model? There might be boundaries on myself. The boundary might be when I'm angry, I won't talk to my husband when I'm angry. I'll just tell him I need a chill off period because it's a boundary on me and I don't want my children to see me talking angrily and think that's love. That could be a boundary. What does honor look like in love? Practically, not idealistically. With that, I do want to hand the floor. I'll actually see if there are any questions, comments. Okay, maybe it's one of our deep sessions tonight. So with that, let me hand it over to our lover couple. I actually did not write an introduction for them. I was remiss on that. But I think their love will speak for itself. So I just want to welcome Pastor and Pastor Mrs. and Dr. Ajayi. As I mentioned earlier, Mrs. Ajayi is popularly known as Ruth. And and she's very proud of her Ruthness. And Pastor Ajayi, popularly known as Daffy, maybe they'll tell us the meaning of that. But you're welcome. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you for modeling the love of God, and we're glad that you were able to join us tonight.
Thank you very much for having us. It's really a joy to be here, and it's really a huge honor as well. We just celebrate the beautiful thing that God is doing through our RC. So we really celebrate what God is doing through you, and we are just so blessed to be part of that and to be family. Really, it's that's all that is happening all that is happening through R2C. R2RC.
You got it.
Yes, it's an absolute joy to be here.
Thank you. We're very glad to have you. And with your permission, I would want to offer for folks to reach out after the session if you want to get in touch directly with the Ajayis. I'm putting them on the spot now. And like I said, I was remiss not to have put together an intro, and I'll send that with the recap. But yes, if you need to get in touch with them later or you want to have a chat or whatever, they're in the UK. And I know that they will be willing to do that with you. So just reach out to me directly for that. Okay. Pastor and Pastor Mrs. Ajayi, I want to give you the floor. I have some questions and prompts that I can walk through. It will be your preference for the most part. But I would like to talk about how early boundary confusion shows up later in marriage, or if you have your own direction of what the Lord has laid on your heart for us tonight, we welcome that too. Which would you prefer?
We're happy to go with your prompts.
Okay, good. So, can you talk to us then about how early boundary confusion might show up later in marriage?
Right. That's a very important question. And one of the things we decided to do this morning or tonight for you Americans is that we wanted to be real, also to draw from our own life experiences and also my own experience, my professional experience as a psychiatrist. As you say, we do mentor and support lots of couples outside. Just one way or the other, God has brought people into our lives that we can support and mentor and offer. Some of them we've been able to see them through their marriage classes and all of that, just in the wider society, not even associated with church, even though we subscribe to the marriage counseling unit that is in our church, which we are not even a part of. However, I think a good way to start will be to start from the point you made about how we can pass this on to the next generation. And that's really important, because what happens is that children don't listen. They don't learn from what we say. They learn from what we do.
Mm-hmm.
So the loudest way to teach our children love is to show them love. And they will then pass that on to the next generation. As we were just talking now, my wife was citing an illustration of something that happened over Christmas.
Yes.
I'm sure, Darren, you want to talk about that?
All right. So over Christmas, we had family members who came to spend Christmas with us. And so to be precise, Auntie Folake, Uncle Sheon, Favor Praise, they were all here with us. And one of Uncle Sheon's friends from way back in secondary school came to visit him. And as he was leaving, he called his family and said, "Oh, come speak, to my family." And our daughters saw that they had daughters too, and they said, "Hello, how are you?" And as he was going, they said, "Oh, uncle, wait." So they quickly ran back upstairs, got some money, put them in an envelope and said, "Please, could you give them to your daughters from us?" And it was really, he said, "Wow." And Uncle Sheon, after Uncle Sheon's friend had left, Uncle Sheon said to the girls, "Oh, I'm really impressed you did that." And they both said, "Oh, that's what we see mom and dad do." So that's
Yeah, and love gives. Yep.
Love gives, absolutely. So I think it's really it's an illustration of how our children model the type of love that they see us display. And so we do know that just it's usually in the first 5 years of life, or maybe stretching it 7 years, that those foundations are developed. And it's the way we respond to the children and what they see us do, really, that forms their own foundation. And I think bringing it home and making it practical. For instance, we see how somebody could be a people pleaser, or how somebody could be somebody who pathologically avoids conflict. And those will be reflections of the type of love that has been modeled to them, in terms of maybe the only way you are loved. If you're a people pleaser, it could be because the only way you are loved is when you are silent, when you are passive, when you don't express your needs, when you don't speak out loud for yourself, when you don't defend your territory. Maybe so you then imbibe that's what love means. That love means I can only be loved when I'm passive, and when I'm a nobody, when I don't express my needs. But there's also that can also have a flip side, when because one has experienced that type of being passive, when one then goes into their own relationships, they are the aggressor. Because it's like, I would defend my space, and I'm very aggressive, I'm very outgoing, I'm not outgoing, but very aggressive, almost to the point of being violent to defend my territory. Because I've taken it for granted that if I don't, then I'm going to be taken for granted. So it's almost the premise on which I'm coming from. So, but I was thinking about this today, that if there was any words in modern day lingo that will capture love, I think it's safety. I think it's safety.
That's deep.
And so, just answering your question in terms of how does the boundaries that we've been set in our early life, how does that affect our relationships? One, if we've been told that love is about presence, not presence, then when we go into our own relationship as well, we would expect that it's all about present and present and present. And if anybody gives presence, that they are available, they're able to create safety, we don't value it. And my wife also has a personal story to share in our relationship about that, in terms of how not even family members frowned at our relationship when we were courting. I'm sure Ellen wants to say something.
So this is like an older auntie who another gentleman who had gone to meet to say, "Oh, auntie, I really like Dupe, and can you please, how they do go the matchmaker." And she came and said to me, "Oh, he's already made. He works in an oil company. You won't lack anything. He lives in a nice house. Drivers, you're made and everything." And that was how she was selling this gentleman to me. And in my head, I'm like, no, that's completely, that's completely opposite of who. That's not what matters to me. I don't, it doesn't matter if this gentleman doesn't have anything. We can start and build something for ourselves. The most important thing is to actually be in a relationship where I know that this is where God is leading me to be. And whatever, once we get that foundation in place, every other thing, houses, riches, God says he gives all of those things. And he's the one who fills our house and our homes with, goodly things. So I said no. And she wasn't happy. To cut a long story short, when the first day she saw me with my husband, she was so mean and she was really sarcastic. She said, "Oh, you were offered something nice and you chose something in tiny trousers." I don't want to say it she said it in my native language. So, and well, time has proven who was right.
Wow. Thanks.
So what we have to be careful about is what our society society is, their impression about what love is, and we shouldn't allow. I mean, in that culture, what I did was almost like a taboo, to say no to somebody who's well respected in the society. And a lot of people we counsel now, in fact, somebody said to me very recently that it was because a spiritual figure said to them that was their husband. That was why, they went into the relationship. They knew that, but they didn't want to say no. So what I did then was seen as I was being, disrespectful. But they're not here. I haven't seen this person in years. So yeah, it's something that, happens in us.
You would have been the one to consume the repercussion either way, if they were with presence rather than presence. And that really talks to boundaries. So thank you for sharing that, because, the rich auntie factor, the Niger aunties, for example, they can be overbearing. And in some cases, they will even say, Oluwawi, God said, to pull that guilt on you. But the Holy Spirit is not trademarked to aunties and uncles or parents. All of us have the Holy Spirit. All of us have our guts. Frankly, I'm at a point in my life where I believe if you're just living uprightly, you have that gut feeling in you, Even if you say, I don't know how the Holy Spirit talks to me, I don't know how God talks, no problem. You have a gut feeling in you, and you'll know what's right from what's wrong. And you just have to assert it as your boundaries. So thank you for sharing that. Tell us maybe a little bit about how unresolved trauma can impact parenting styles, emotional safety. You've started talking about safety, which is super important. And I agree with you, Dr. Ajayi. Safety is synonymous with love. Safe love is good love. It can be poor, it can be anything, but safety is really that's a takeaway for me, and I really appreciated you sharing that. So, how does unresolved trauma impact parenting styles, emotional safety, and conflicts?
Yeah, that's another very important question. But I'm just going to tick off the previous question so that we can round that up.
Sorry. And let me know when I should move slides as well.
No, it's fine. No, it's okay. And that's to do with, I think one way to summarize some of the things you read earlier is about when trust collides with truth. It looks like that was what was happening in that situation. And it's really about teaching our children to know what to do when trust collides with truth. When their own truth, what they've always held to be true, they've always known what we've raised them up on, when it collides with what somebody else is offering that they trust, which one do they hold on to? Truth should be held on to against trust, because it's no longer trust if the truths are not the same. If we don't align on truth, then really there's no trust again. And what tends to happen is, and sadly that happens, like my wife just said. We know people that we have that we grow up with, people that we see or later we meet later in life, who say, actually, I knew that it didn't feel right, it didn't sound right, but everybody was saying I should do it. Everybody thought it was the right thing to do, and I went into it, and we can now see the repercussion of it. So I think one of the things that we can do to help our children is to help them to believe in their own truth and to trust themselves. And that's by really validating them, giving power back to them, involving them in decision making when they are wrong and we are right. When we are wrong and they are right, to let them know I got that wrong and to be able to apologize. That's not African. And unfortunately as well, it's not Black Christian culture. But in reality, that helps them to be able to really know that, to own their own truth and to be confident whether we are there or not, to be able to say, this truth collides with my trust, and I'm going to hold on to my truth. So I thought we'll wrap that up in that regard. Darling, do you have anything to say? So you were talking about unresolved trauma.
Yes.
I think, yeah, I'm quite aware of time as well. In terms of unresolved trauma,
keep going. I'm getting so many nuggets out of this, and I have to sit with you, but I'm getting so much already. So yeah, and I imagine every of us are getting some things out of this. So yes.
Thanks. So I think in terms of unresolved trauma, let's go back to the issue of safety again, because what trauma does for people, I'm sure that some of us have heard about the classic classic trauma best-selling global best-selling book, The Body Keeps the Score, Bessel van der Kolk, renowned psychiatrist, veteran, worked in Vietnamese war and all of those. But basically, what he says is that when we experience trauma, it almost sets our brain to be almost on hyper alert and alarm all the time. The way to illustrate is this. The way to illustrate it is this: that if you put your kettle to boil, if you were having a Sunday roast, and then you forgot your Sunday roast, and then there was smoke coming out of your oven, and your alarm goes off, your kitchen alarm goes off. That's a good thing, because it alerts you that there's something wrong. But if whilst you are boiling your kettle, the kettle boils and your alarm then goes off, that's quite a worrying thing. And that's what happens in trauma. Trauma makes our body and our brains to be hyper alert. We pick up on everything, and we are oversensitive, and it makes us really, it's almost like everything becomes an emergency. And trauma it's not just childhood trauma. I mean, like we said we were going to be vulnerable today. We'll share our own experiences. For us, one of the things that we found out was that some of the earlier trauma that each of us had experienced was playing out when we got married, and it was difficult to be able to understand that, despite the fact that I was a psychiatrist. I was meant to understand all this human behavior and be able to. One of the things that I'm sure that my wife is going to share is about how it wasn't even childhood experience trauma. It was actually trauma in young adult life, and how that was playing out in our own lives until we realized it. If you want to share.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. So I think it was in 1995. I lost a very, very good friend of mine. Well, friend turned sister. And what had happened was, I'm going to cut it short. She went for a weekend, to a place in Nigeria, and it was just to be Friday, back Monday. But unfortunately, she didn't make it back. And I hadn't realized how much that had impacted me until we got into a relationship, and my husband happens to come from that city where my friend traveled to. So that meant I had to cope with him doing exactly what she did. And so the first time he went to Ibadan, which is the city from, Ilorin, after we got into a relationship, I waited to hear from him, and I didn't hear from him. He said he would be back on the Monday. Monday, I went to look for him. Nobody seemed to know where he was. And, sometimes I actually surprised myself, because the liver, I knew where my friend had gone to and everything. But when I now saw him, the amazing, people who know me know I'm not aggressive. But when I saw him, it was relief coupled with, I just started, I began to cry. because in my head, it was playing in my head, oh, the same thing that happens to your friend. That was how she went on a Friday. It was just to be a weekend. Friday and Monday came, she didn't come back. It was the same. Everything began to play, things that I thought I'd gotten over. So when I saw him and I reacted that way, he thought, huh? I just started crying, and then, so maybe you take it from that side.
So I think it's just that just shows us. I think there are a few things from there. Thank you for sharing that, because I know that's deeply personal for you. So thank you for really sharing that. I think the point that comes up for me is, one, if there's been unresolved trauma in our lives, it can very easily interfere with all our relationships without us even realizing it. And without us being aware of it, and it can in fact run and ruin relationships. So one of the things we said before, whilst we're preparing for this, is that it's important to name those trauma, and at the right time in a relationship, to be transparent about them. To say, actually, this is what I'm bringing into the relationship, and it's important that we name this, because the reality is that it was something then we then had to unpack, and we had to continue to unpack. For instance, my wife would joke that, I'm sure that some of you didn't know this at the time. Anytime you were in the air, for instance, anytime you were traveling from UK to the United States or gone to Nigeria, whatever time of the night or day it was, my wife would stay up and track all your flights.
And pray.
And pray till you landed. Because that was how, but thank God, she's come a long way now. And I think it's just important. I think the other point to make is that if we've had trauma, everyone has had trauma one way or the other.
Yes.
It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to go. I know in our Black culture, we don't like to talk to counselors. We don't like to talk to therapists. But I know I'm biased. I'm a psychiatrist. But the reality is that those things can be transformational. Those experiences can transform people's lives. And it's the reality. They can really help equip us with skills that we need to navigate life and to navigate relationships. I don't know whether you wanted to say something.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it was clear. When I said she didn't come back, it was because on her way back, she had an accident and died.
Bless you, big sis. Bless you. Yeah. Trauma can be deep. Yeah. And by naming it is how we heal it.
Absolutely.
Confessing it, and even being able to speak about it tonight, big sis, you've gained an additional healing from that. And you've scaled fences, you've scaled walls. The Bible says God is the God that teaches our hands to war and our fingers to fight. He helps us to scale walls. You just scaled another wall. So yeah, thank you for sharing that so much. Yeah. Thank you to those that text. I saw some of your messages already that you want to talk to the couple later. I will arrange that later, and feel free to speak up as well, ask questions in this interim. Pastor Ajayi, over to you.
Right.
So how did you cope? You were going to talk about how you coped with my reaction, because you didn't understand.
Yeah. So at the time, I didn't understand that response. I thought it felt like I just struck a match and there was a volcanic eruption. That's the way to describe it. Because and it took me years to really begin to understand that. That was trauma, and it's important for us as spouses to put things in perspective. If we feel that there's a particular trigger point, a particular hot point, that is always, it's important not to put it down to behavior, because unfortunately, also in our African culture, we put a lot of things down to bad behavior, when in actual sense it's trauma. We think people are behaving badly, but people who, when one has experienced trauma, your nervous system has been programmed to behave in a particular way. And the generational part of it is that trauma changes the brain, and then we can then pass that on to the next generation. In fact, research shows that I think they say it's about 14 generations of trauma that we can pass on to the next 14 generations on. So it's really about being open about those things. Sometimes it's also unpacking them together. That why is it that this always causes tension between us? Why is this a trigger point? What's happened in the past that triggers us, or that triggers you or triggers me to be like that?
Wow. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm gonna, and I know some of us might need to drop off, but feel free to hang on. I would ask the indulgence of our couple to please keep going as much as your time permits, and thank you. I
Yeah, that's fine.
appreciate it. Thank you so much for your vulnerability, for your clarity. Really, really much appreciated. What are some practical tools that couples can use to re-establish emotional safety, or to model respect, repair, and self-honor to their children? And remember, the framing of all this, I get it that, as we're into this, some of us are nuggets for our own marriage. That's great. We should. Beyond that, I want us to also pick nuggets for our children. What are we modeling? Remember, it's really about that next generation. And we heal so that they can heal. As you're picking nuggets, maybe things that you'll go apply at home to your wife over this Valentine week. Perfect. As the key language of love. Interestingly, they talk about love languages. Safety is not even.
Yeah.
That should be version 2, edition 2. That's Rema. But remember, it's really about investing that in the next generation. So even if this doesn't apply to you, someone already texted me regarding their child for this situation as well. So if it doesn't apply to you, that's okay. I'm not meaning for this to apply to you. I'm not here to heal you necessarily. My stake is in the next generation. So please start thinking about your children, however how young they are. Never too early. Never too early. Mrs. Ajayi was quite young, She was just a young adult in 1995, and 3 decades later, we're still talking about this. So it's never too early to invest healing in those children. So, Pastor and Pastor Mrs., what are some practical tools couples can use to re-establish safety? And what are things they can do to model respect, repair, and self-honor to children? Let me know when to share screen again for the.
All right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. In terms of practical tools, I think awareness is the key thing, isn't it? Because if you're not aware that you're triggered, you can't bring yourself back to base. So it's about supporting each other to know when one is triggered. Usually, it's the other spouse that is able to understand when, because when we are triggered, our nervous system goes into overdrive. It's like when your alarm goes off, your kitchen alarm goes off, everything goes haywire. So in the same way, so it means that we would both agree that I will be the custodian, you will be the custodian. You will help me to know when I'm triggered. I will help you to know when you are triggered. And it also means that I'm also being aware that when you are triggered and you are behaving in a particular way, it's not bad behavior, it's not being malicious. It's actually that your body has been programmed that way. So there are a few things. One of them is, for instance, we could have a magical word that indicates when any of you uses that word, it means it's your polite way of saying, oh, it's time to step back. It looks like you've been triggered. It looks like I've been triggered. And those conversations are best had when everything is most peaceful. When we can say this is going to be a magic word, this is going to be this going. When we say this, it means that let's calm things down, and we use this also about really practical things in terms of how do we calm ourselves down. I know Boyukumi did taught some of those skills, grounding skills, about a few weeks ago, and we use that. Sometimes we lead each other to really do breathing exercises, taking in deep breaths, breathing exercises in terms of slow breathing, taking in air through your lungs, holding it for, there is the 5-7 cycle, for instance. You breathe in for 5 seconds, you hold it for 7 seconds, and then you breathe out through your mouth for 8 seconds. The whole essence is that you have a cycle of breathing in, you hold it, pause it, and then you make sure that the cycle of breathing out is longer than the cycle of breathing in. It's all, and there's no voodoo about it. There's no, because I know as African people as well, we think, and I want to put up my hands and admit this. I mean, the reality is, I was a psychiatrist for many years, and I didn't do any. I didn't get involved with any of this breathing. I thought, if I don't understand the science of it, count me out. Until I began to dig into the science of it myself. And it's just about what we do when we breathe, when we do those breathing exercises, is that we are triggering our vagus nerve. And our vagus nerve is the calming nerve, it's the longest nerve in our body. And it's the nerve, when you trigger that, it sends a message to your brain that you are safe. So basically, and the grounding, I'm sure that we can refer to the session that we had with Kim, but she talked about also grounding exercises in terms of counting 5 things that you can see, 4 things that you can smell, 2 things that you can taste, something that you can touch, and maybe something that you can smell. So it's or some people even talk about going to a happy place, visualization, really taking ourselves to a happy place, a happy memory. It could be a happy scenario. It could be a happy place. It could be an happy event. Something. It's really about taking ourselves out of that situation. And I think that there's no other fast road to this. I think it's really about couples sitting down together and saying, when you are triggered or when I'm triggered, what are the things that we can do? So it's unique to everyone. It's unique to everyone. And I think the other point that I like to make on that is that it's helpful to use every conflict. And could we share the Kintsugi now, please? Kintsugi now, please.
Yeah, let me share that now. Okay, can you explain?
Oh, yes, thank you. Yes, we can see that. So I'm just going to talk quickly about Kintsugi, and I think my wife probably has something to say at this point. So the Kintsugi is really it's about a Japanese concept that when ceramics break, like we have plates, we have these ceramic plates. The best wares when we've got the king visiting that we bring out. The Japanese people, when their ceramics break like that, they don't throw them away like we do. We just discard them and put them in the bin. No. What tends to happen is that they will then pick up those pieces all together again, and they will use either golden glue or silver glue to put together those pieces again, such that that particular item then becomes a limited edition, one of a kind ever. Because the reality is that no matter how you try, you can't break 2 plates or 2 cups in exactly the same place. And because you can't break them in exactly the same place, it also means that when you mend them, you can't mend them in exactly the same place. So the reality is that those conflicts, those periods of being triggered, can actually be used as unique glues when we're able to debrief on the conflicts and we're able to unpack them And that's also something that we do. That okay, yes. What was the word that triggered you? What did I do? What was it that caused you to react that way? And it means that that then adds to the glue, such that we are becoming more and more unique, and all those glues as well are experiences that we are gathering, such that when we then display the vase on the centerpiece or wherever, it's unique, it stands out, and everybody sees all those cracks. But whilst they were fractures initially, they are no longer fractures. They're actually unique selling points. They're actually the statements of our victory and how far we've come. So I'm sure that you've got something to say at this point.
No, it's just that we should always remember that we're a team, So like my husband said earlier, that love is a place of safety. It's a place where, you're not hiding anything, being naked and not being ashamed. So, you're not trying to prove anything. So it's a place where we really, really have to say it the way it is. Sometimes I wish the other person could actually look into your heart and see, but they can't, except you tell them, and we can't do that by, sometimes people would keep malice, people would not, people would tread on eggshells, but if we can actually come together and say, look, we're in this together, you and me, and be bold and courageous enough to open up and say it exactly the way it is, I think that would also help.
Oh, I think you're on mute.
Oh, sorry about that. Wow. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We still have a lot to cover, and I can't even get it. I mean, there's still a lot, but I want to be thoughtful of your time and everybody's time. Wow. Wow. Do you have any parting thoughts for us, or any particular topic you still particularly want us to explore together?
Yes, thank you for that. I'm quite aware of everyone's time, so we'll be quick about this. So very often in the sometimes the workshops or the seminars that I run, this is one that almost always comes up. People ask me, they say, or they say it in different ways. Maybe they're asking on behalf of themselves, or asking on behalf of their children or a spouse or a friend, or that when trust collides with truth, at what point do I know it's time to run? Because believers, we are hoping for the best. Also, we come from a culture where people say, stay in there by the skin of the teeth. Whatever happens, just stay in there, just hang in there. Just protect the family reputation. And it's not just in marital relationships, it's also in friendships sometimes, because it's not just what we are talking about. It's not just about spousal relationships. It's also about even work relationships and all of that. So in that case, so it's important that I call it like 5A tests, and it's really very practical in terms of, so this aggressor, do they, in the first instance, do they understand? Are they aware that they are causing aggression? Are they aware? Are they self-aware? I mean, if I have an anger problem, if I have pornography problem, if I have gambling problem, if I have addiction problem, if I have if I'm not want to be trusted, if I'm not want to be trusted with money, if it's alcohol addiction, am I accepting that? Am I even aware that that's a problem? That personally, this is a problem for me. That's the first A. The second A is that, am I acknowledging the impact that that's having on our relationship? Because somebody could say, oh yes, I've I've been gambling since 5 years, 10 years ago, 50 years ago. Somebody could say that. So that what's your problem? That's your problem, not mine. So am I acknowledging that in this system, the impact it's having on our marriage, the impact it's having on our friendship, on our relationship, on our siblingship, on the fact that I'm father-son relationship. So am I acknowledging the impact that that's having? The third thing is, am I accepting responsibility for the issue? So, because I could also say, yes, I acknowledge that it's affecting you, but you see, that's me. You are the one that will need to accept me that way. So, am I accepting? And these are, I think, these are skills that we could, in fact, sometimes the reality is that children will come with relationships that they are putting in the balance. And it's like 5 skills that we can help them. We are talking through and using that framework to help them to really answer their own questions, so that by the time they finish, they have their own answers themselves. So acknowledging. And of course, the other one is you can acknowledge from now till tomorrow that, oh yes, I know I need to change. I know I need to change. Actually, darling, I know I need to change. But action, what am I going to change? Am I going to Gambling Anonymous? Am I going to a Narcotic Anonymous? Am I going for counseling? Am I going for anger management? Am I going for therapy? The interesting thing is I do quite a bit of selective trauma-informed coaching. Every man, and this is usually for men, every man that has come, has engaged in those sessions, have always come because their wife asked them to come and issue them an ultimatum. Every time. It's always because the wife says, line in the sand, if you don't do something, I'm out. Because usually nobody comes for therapy or goes into coaching or anything like that, except there is fire on the mountain. So it's about action. Am I going to back up all that? Oh yes, it's true. I'm aware. I've acknowledged the problem. I'm accepting that I have responsibility. I'm taking action. And the third one is that, let's face it, change is not pretty. We are rewiring the circuits in our brain. So it's not a walk in the park. It's not by the snap of the fingers. It's going to take hard work. Going to NA, going for therapy for pornography, going for therapy for anger management. All of those things are deep work. Some of them are deeply. For instance, if a man has seen his dad abuse his mom, or even in a violent relationship, is 10 times more likely to be a perpetrator. If a lady has seen her mother being a victim of domestic violence, they are 6 times more likely to become victims themselves. So it's all ingrained and wired in the brain. So if it's going to change, it's going to take work. And the final A is accountability, in terms of who is going to hold me accountable. Is it a friend? Is it my pastor? Is it my boss? So who is going to be my mentor, my coach? Who is going to say, yes, you've committed to taking action, but it's not just going for 1 day. It's not just going for 2 days. So those 5 A's are things that we can help, we can support. Even it could be a friend, it could be a child, it could be to really walk through, is this relationship so worth investing in? And all of this following their hearts, still remembering that truth must always prevail against trust if there's a collision between the two. Thank you.
Wow. Sorry, I'm going to finish capturing what I'm typing so that everyone can have it. When someone is in a relationship with an aggressor, to determine if the relationship is worth saving, check the following. Do they pass the 5 A's test? Wow. Thank you. I think I speak on behalf of everyone on the call. Thank you. And I'll stop the share. Thank you so much. I gained so much. And like I said, I already have front row seats with you, but I gained a lot from this session still. So thank you so much. It's just packed full. I'm going to send the recap and the transcripts. I know several of you have already been texting me that you want the transcript for your children, as you know, some of us have young adults starting to prepare for relationships, marriage, even younger children. there's a lot of powerful things that we've heard. Safety, love is safety. So even if he's not sending flowers, I got my Valentine flowers from my lovely younger brother earlier yesterday. So even if they're not sending flowers, they're not sending flowers, they're sending safety. Okay. So if they're sending flowers, they need to be sending safety along with flowers. Safety before presence, and then calming your system. And it's not voodoo. It's okay to actually practice those things and practice it with your children. I do that with my daughters, and I've seen that when I fail to, the outcomes are less positive. For example, if we're like stuck in something else, okay, let's time 120 seconds, take 120 seconds. And it's amazing what can happen in that 120 seconds, because it gives everyone time to just, whether you want to speak in tongues, you want to pray, you want to like just calm yourself, whatever it is. It's very, very helpful. I'm not even going to be able to summarize the session because that was just packed full. I'm going to use my AI assistant here, and I'll send the transcript to folks. This has been a huge blessing. Thank you very much, Pastor and Pastor Mrs. Ajayi. May the wine in your marriage continue to be renewed and never run dry in the name of Jesus. May you continue to just be a symbol of Boaz. Somebody has a question.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Somebody has a question? I saw, okay, maybe it was, maybe they were using a different symbol and we got that one. I will send some information about the Ajayis, their social and so on and so forth. Pastor Ajayi, Dr. Ajayi is on Tripart Care. I'll put that in the chat window as well. Tripart Care on YouTube and Instagram. So it's Tripart Care, YouTube and Instagram. So they can be reached in those ways. And for those of you that have texted me, I'll follow up with you as well to make the necessary arrangements. I do want you to remember, why are we doing this? It is for our generations. It's for the 10-year-old you are, for the 12-year-old, for the 20-year-old, for the 30-year-old, for the 25-year-old, for the 1-year-old. It's never too early to start, and it's never too late. We really want to model these things we've learned. Yes, we will benefit from it in our relationships, in our work relationships, in our siblings, but more importantly, for that next generation, so that we're getting the spoil of battle, which is Exodus 3:22b, the spoil of battle, the spoil of trauma. We get it. The benefit of it, we put it on our children. So I know we're way over time. Thank you for your patience. Really, this was just packed. I'm just in awe. This was really, really packed. So thank you. Our closing mantra is, we'll all say this together, that we rise so they rise. But I just want to remind us again, love that outlives generations is love that teaches truth, that honors boundaries, and chooses courage over comfort. Love that outlives generations is love that teaches truth, honors boundaries, and chooses courage over comfort. And I pray that our healing will truly become our children's inheritance. So in closing, I'll just want us to say our closing charge together, and it's simply, we rise so they rise. And on the count of 3, let's say together, we rise so they rise. So it's 2, 3. We rise so they rise. Everyone to unmute. 1, 2, 3.
We rise so they rise.
Rise so they rise. Thank you, everyone. I see a question. Because we're rounding up now, we'll take that question offline. Should you encourage your children to divorce? And I know that Pastor Ajayi has a perspective on that. It's actually what he started to talk about at the end, the test, the 5 A's test. And, and we'll take that offline. Yeah. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a lovely rest of your evening, and happy Valentine's Day. It's about love, not lust. Happy Valentine's Day. Thank you so much, Pastor and Pastor Mrs. Ajayi. My heart is just filled with gratitude. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so
God bless
much.
you. Thank you, Dr. Kemi. God bless you. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma.
Thank you very much, everyone.
All right. Bye-bye.